Hello and welcome to another finals edition of the NBA Outlet presented by OTGBasketball.com. Make sure you follow OTG on Twitter at OTGBasketball. Also hit that subscribe button. I'm your host, Nick Fay. With me today, OTG writer Kory Waldron, a.k.a. K-Wald Hoops, a.k.a. Connor. What's up, Kory?
Hey, Nick. How you doing? It's a sad but good day because the NBA season is over, but we finally have our winners, the Golden State Warriors. Been a hell of a season.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people complain about the postseason, the season. I still thoroughly enjoyed it. And I mean, I think this is kind of the result most of us expected going to the season. Warriors come out on top, win the NBA championship 4-1, big series from KD, big series from Curry. What's your initial reaction after last night's game, about last night's game and the overall championship for Golden State?
Last night, my two big takeaways. One is that LeBron James wasn't wrong when he said he needed more help. I think that was pretty clear this entire series, even in Game 4 when they had to break records in order to beat the Warriors. It just showed that LeBron all along was right when he said they needed help, and that Darren Williams was probably not the playmaking point guard that he really wanted. And on the flip side, we saw the dynasty that is the Golden State Warriors. We saw that you can be a coward and still win a championship. We saw redemption.
Harsh words from Kory Waldron right now.
Yeah, KD was phenomenal, and it's nothing away from Kevin Durant. I mean, from a business perspective and for a winning perspective, he made the right decision. And again, last night he shot 70% from the field. Anytime the Cavs got any momentum, Kevin Durant was right there to drain a shot. He was phenomenal, and he's the second best player. And when LeBron finally, takes a step back, will probably be Kevin Durant who takes his spot.
Yeah,
they were phenomenal last night.
The Warriors, I think you hit it right on the head when you said the Cavs just needed more. Talent-wise, they just couldn't match up with the Warriors, and some of that is just like the players that they do have. I think going to the matchup with the Warriors, one thing that stuck out is their lack of elite defenders. When you're facing a Steph Curry, a Kevin Durant, a Klay Thompson, you need guys that can at least you're not going to shut those guys down, but at least slow them down. Obviously, LeBron's a great defender, but he's not able to kind of use that energy all on defense when he has to do the scoring load, passing load, playmaking. And I think you hit it on the head, too, when you mentioned playmaker. On this team, they just lack playmakers in general. Yeah, Kyrie Irving can create for himself, but he's not necessarily great at running the offense and getting everyone going. If you look at the assist numbers for the series, they had LeBron averaging 10 assists, Kyrie averaging 4.4. Next guy is Darren Williams Tristan Thompson averaging 2.6, Darren Williams at 1.2, and Kevin Love at 1. The rest of the guys are averaging 1 assist. There's no playmaking on that team. When you look at the Warriors, on the other hand, they got KD, Curry over 5 assists. Curry is averaging 9 assists. Draymond with over 4, Klay over 2, Andre over 3, Sean Livingston over 1. It's just they rely so much on LeBron to create everything, and that's a problem for the Cavs, and it was evident in this series.
To your point, precisely. I mean, the fact of the matter, even in that fourth quarter, where the Cavs weren't exactly out of it, they were within 10 points for most of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, within striking distance.
Yeah, I mean, besides LeBron, every time Kyrie touched the ball, it was an ISO possession. He was 0 for 6 shooting, and I'm pretty sure all 6 of those shots were ISO possessions. They weren't. There weren't any picks. It was just Kyrie going one-on-one with someone and taking an off-balance shot, or driving to the hoop and just not finishing. And that's not winning basketball. I tweeted this last night. Watching the Cavs last night in the fourth quarter, it reminded me so much of last year's OKC Thunder. It just was Durant and Westbrook, but this time it was LeBron and Kyrie. There just was no help, and your 2 stars are trying to do everything.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not trying to be critical of Kyrie, but I think, his lack of playmaking really hurt them, because if you look at the usage rate, LeBron at 30.8% and Kyrie at 30.9%. And offensively scoring-wise, LeBron, I think, averaged more in the series a game, and he had more assists, and Kyrie's only able to give you 4 assists. I think it hurts a team. And when he takes so many tough shots. Obviously, he's skilled and he hits a ton of tough shots. But like you said, it's just not great basketball, and it's hard to live by that late in the fourth quarter when you're living by a contested 3 over Klay Thompson, a great defender.
Yeah, and not to discredit Kyrie, but Kyrie's just another one of those point guards who's really more of a 2 guard and a point guard body. He's got more of a Kobe mentality, which is obviously why everyone says like a little Mamba in him. He looks to
Yeah.
score. He doesn't necessarily look to get his teammates involved as much. And actually, when the Cavs started off the game hot last night, they were moving the ball very well. They were picking off passing lanes. I know that him and LeBron had a steal right off an inbound on back-to-back possessions for 2 easy layups. They were really aggressive early, and they were moving the ball along. And after that 27-4 run by the Warriors in the second quarter, they just never got back to moving the ball like that.
Yeah, and that's the issue. You can't live by this ISO ball. And I think with the need for a playmaker, they could probably get someone at that 2-guard spot, or maybe bring in another big that can kind of make plays offensively for you to kind of set people up. Because you're right, Kyrie's just not that type of point guard. But you touched on it. Let's move on and kind of look at the game 5 from quarter by quarter. Like first quarter, it came out, it was kind of a sloppy start for the Warriors. Like you said, Cavs made some nice plays. LeBron on the inbound pass, then he had that nice layup. And it kind of felt like positive momentum for the Cavs going into that first quarter and almost moving on to the second. You could kind of feel the Warriors at the end of the second, but then that second quarter is where the Warriors really turned it on.
You know what I really felt too? I felt like until, the entire first quarter, it felt like there was going to be a game 6 for me personally.
Yeah.
Because I was at work watching on a phone. So I didn't see, I missed most of the second quarter. But the first quarter, it really felt like Cleveland was keeping that moment. I think they shot 62% after the first quarter. I'm not positive on that. I think they shot like 62.5% after 1, which is right where they left off in game 4. And I was thinking, like, if this team just stays hot like this is going back to Cleveland. But the fact of the matter is, they did what they did in game 4, though. They kept fouling Curry. They were getting the Warriors were getting to the line in the first quarter. And after 1, the Cavs only led by, I want to say 6 or 7, or maybe it was 8. And the fact of the matter is, they had so much momentum in that first quarter, and they couldn't pull away because they kept on giving Golden State those chances at the free throw line to keep the game close.
Yeah, and I thought those free throws for Curry were huge in the first quarter because they were doing a pretty good job. He was getting frustrated. They were picking him up full court, being physical with him. He probably got fouled a few times going to the lane. He wasn't hitting his shots, but those free throws kind of let him get his rhythm going. And then early in that second, you're right. The Cavs had the momentum and they had that little lead going to the second. They had some bad turnovers early in that second, and I think 1 or 2 by LeBron James. And when LeBron makes a mistake, it's like the whole team overreacts. And next thing you know, the Cavs are kind of losing that energy and they're just kind of falling down, and the Warriors were just living off of that.
Well, and Iggy and Livingston in that second quarter, when they came in, I mean, the energy completely skyrocketed for the Warriors. Livingston had an and 1 turnaround bucket, and then Iggy was huge in that 27-4 run. He had that big dunk where he was pretty much eye level with the rim. That was the game, too. Warriors bench scored 35 points. The Cavaliers bench only scored 7.
Yeah, Andre kind of changed that game, like you said, coming in. Obviously, Sean Livingston, too. I think the bench in this series has been huge, but he had a big game. Not only offensively, I think he had around 20 points, and he brought that energy. But defensively, obviously, you're never going to stop LeBron, but he definitely made life a lot more difficult, and it seemed like LeBron was taking a few more jumpers with Andre out there.
Yeah, he made life tougher, especially for the fact that, we knew LeBron was going to have to guard Kevin Durant heavily. He was going to be guarded by Draymond and Kevin Durant often. And the fact that Iggy, was healthy this year. And those are 3 very good above-average defenders that were constantly on LeBron. It had to make LeBron tired. I think in the second quarter especially, LeBron only took 2 shots. He made a 3 and he missed another shot. And I'm not sure why he wasn't as aggressive, but he looked very sluggish throughout the game.
Yeah, he definitely brought a lot of energy in that first quarter. I think he hit like his first 5 or 6 shots, and it looked like it was going to be like a legendary performance. But then I think fatigue kind of caught up, and playing this team and how much they make LeBron work. It's, there's no really easy assignment defensively. Occasionally a bench guy is not as bad, but they still do a good job moving without the ball. And then moving on to the second half, the Warriors at that point were already up, I think, around 10 at halftime. They had a lead as large as like 15 at one point. Third quarter, they started playing loose, and it just felt like the Warriors were going to walk away with this one.
Yeah, I think they were up by almost like 19, and J.R. Smith hit that 3 near the end of the first half, which kind of gave the Cavs a little bit of a breather going into the second half. But yeah, and the third quarter was, it was typical Warriors. It felt like they couldn't miss a shot for most of that third.
Yeah, and it just felt like everything was going right for the Warriors and everything was going bad for the Cavs. And like that hasn't happened a ton this series, but it's been the third quarter where the Warriors have really had their big runs and like took away with the game. And I think when we got to the fourth, obviously the Cavs were still in the game, but everybody kind of knew they weren't going to be able to come back against this team with the way they were playing, especially Kevin Durant, the shots that he was hitting.
Yeah. I mean, for a second, I'm looking at the play-by-play. I mean, we were 15 seconds into the second half, and Klay Thompson drained that three-pointer. I mean, that's just –
and it was
Klay
a contested three over Kyrie.
Yeah, and Klay only had 11 points. But, man, I swear, every big possession they needed from Klay Thompson, he was right there for that moment. He had a big three in the fourth quarter as well. And he only had, I think, 2 or 3 threes for the game.
Yeah, he stepped up. I mean, his numbers weren't amazing this series, but defensively, he had a great impact. And I think the Cavs could have used a player like him that can come out defensively. It's not like he locked down Kyrie or locked everyone down, but he made everything tough and made them work for their shots. So it's not like Kyrie had a ton of nice looks in the series. He just hit a ton of really, really difficult shots.
Yeah, Kyrie had to be phenomenal almost on every possession where he was. I mean, obviously Kyrie's, he's great at finishing. But, all jump shots that he took for the majority of this series, Klay Thompson was in his face.
Exactly. And I was mistaken. Honestly, Klay's offensive numbers weren't even that bad. He averaged 16 points, shot 42% from the field, but 42% from three, which is not bad at all compared to how he did in the Western Conference Finals.
No, he had really big roles in both game 1 and 2. And I mean, like we said, I don't know the exact stat sheet, but I saw one of his his defensive numbers. And players were shooting almost like 10% lower in the playoffs when they were guarded by Klay, which is outstanding.
Yeah, even there was a possession last night. Obviously, LeBron was kind of gassed at this point, but he held his own in the post against LeBron. Obviously, on a fully healthy, LeBron's going to probably body him up, but you got to give Klay a lot of credit. He definitely just has, like he mentioned on his question afterwards, he brings just pride and effort on the defense, and that's all you can really ask.
Yeah, and I want to flip over to the other two guard. J.R. Smith was huge offensively for the Cavs.
Huge.
I know from for game 1 and 2, almost everyone, including myself, we were thinking, where's J.R. Smith? Because the Cavs, I think he had 1 point, right? He had 3 points in game 1 off 1 3-pointer to start off the series. And he didn't make another shot or even he didn't make another shot or even have another point the rest of the game. Yeah. And then game 3, we saw him start to come alive with that, the half court, or game 4. 3 at the logo that we talked about. And then tonight or last night, he had 25 on 9 of 11 shooting, which I haven't seen JR shoot that well and I can't even say how long. But defensively, man, did he take the wind out of the Cavs in that fourth quarter. Yeah. He got beat on so many switches. He was just lost at times. He didn't know who his man was.
Yeah.
Late in that fourth quarter, Iggy and Durant got 2 easy, wide open dunks. And I'm not sure if it was LeBron or J.R. Smith's guy who got lost, but I'm pretty sure on both times they were J.R. Smith's assignment, and he just got lost.
Yeah, I definitely remember the one with Kevin Durant, LeBron, and J.R. Smith, and it just looked like total confusion. LeBron went with the switch, and J.R. Smith kind of just stood in the middle of nowhere. He stood in a spot where he couldn't do anything to help either way. So that killed him. He did hit those tough shots, though, when he shot 9 of 11. A lot of big threes that kept the Cavs in the game, but defensively, he just looked to lose focus a couple times in that series that just really hurt them. And there was one time, I think, in the second half, someone threw him a pass and he was not paying attention at all. It just luckily still ended up bouncing into his hands.
And that's a sad thing. It's because he actually didn't play awful defense in the first couple of games of this series. He was at least being tenacious and he was at least getting into his defender. And it just, not that I'm trying to rag on JR, but it just seems like you can't get a full, well-rounded game from JR. If he's going to give you offense, you're going to lose a little defense. If he's going to give you defense, you're going to lose the offense. I just wish we could see a complete J.R. Smith at times.
And I think that kind of defines his career because going in as a young player, he was always a talented guy, and he had potential to probably be a star in this league if he ever put it all together, but he just hasn't done that. So, but if you had to say 3 things that decided this series, what do you think were the biggest difference makers in this series?
I mean, the first one is this is a no-brainer, I think, but star power, bench, and I want to say rebounding.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, besides LeBron and Kevin Love, I know Tristan had 2 decent games rebounding in game 4 and 5, but I mean, like we said, he was a no-show for the first 3 games. So those 3 for me are the big ones.
Yeah, no, the rebounding point's great because the Warriors actually out-rebounded the Cavs for the series, not only in total rebounds, but also in offensive rebounds. And going into the series, we knew that somewhere that the Cavs really had to dominate if they wanted to have a chance. But I think obviously rebounding's a good one. And then just I think the star power, the talent. There's just such a difference in talent. You know, having a player like Durant and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, all guys that can do things with the ball. I think, and then kind of building on that point, it's like the lack of a playmaker. And then I'd probably say defense, you know, where the Warriors have a lot of defenders, a lot of like high level defenders, high basketball IQ guys that can defend at a high level. Even though the Cavs put up some great offensive performances, the Cavs just don't have those guys on their roster.
No, and that's a great point. Especially this year, I know as we talked about a lot, Kevin Durant has really shown how much of a good defender he is because of his length. And last night also we saw, like, for the first time, that lineup where they had Draymond, Durant, Iggy, Klay, and Curry on the floor at one time. And that is just a revolutionary style of lineup. I mean, we only saw it for a few minutes prior to last night, but that lineup is just so athletic, and the length of Durant and Draymond, it's actually really a problem defensively. And because Kevin Love, he can't create for himself. And we saw again, like when he catches the ball, whoever was guarding him immediately gets underneath him and just gets in his face and plays very physical. And when Kevin Love is being bumped, he doesn't seem to know what to do with the basketball. He doesn't seem to want to put it on the floor and make a move. He just gets rid of the ball.
Yeah, he seems like a guy it's kind of easy to disrupt his rhythm, and I think last night the 2 fouls killed him. But you mentioned Durant. It's almost like the Warriors really don't put out lineups that have bad defenders. You know, at least at worst case scenario, the guy's usually a good team defender, and they can kind of cover for him in some way, or he does some good thing defensively. So I think that's just such a big difference. When you look at the Cavs, on the other hand, they put guys out there. You know, Kevin Love's not necessarily a great defender. Kyle Korver's not known for his defense. He's a smart team defender, but he's just not that athletic. Darren Williams, nobody's going to mistake him for a great defender. So, and then guys like Channing Frye, they couldn't even play this series because of his defense in his matchup with the Warriors.
What you're saying, Patrick McCaw also for the Warriors last night. He only played like 11 minutes, but defensively, you know, he was doing his best job to disrupt Kyrie Irving. I know Kyrie still scored quite a bit on him,
but he showed some good energy too.
You know, he did. He had, 6 points or whatever, 3 rebounds, a steal, and assists. You know, in 11 minutes, that's big time from a role player who doesn't normally get minutes like that.
Exactly, especially a rookie. And then he even took Ian Clark's minutes last night, which I know they were talking about on the broadcast. So it's a big moment for him and a nice step for the Warriors, because obviously they might need to fill in some of these bench spots in the going forward. But we're going to last thing for the finals before we start moving on to the Warriors and the Cavs a little bit in the offseason talk. Who had a great series? You know, give me a few guys for each team that really impressed you.
I'm going to give you all right, so I'll give you 3. I'll give you 4. So I'll start from 4th and I'll go to 1st. So the 4th player on this list is going to be Kevin Love. Even besides last night only having 6 points, he did so many of the little things that don't show up on the stat sheet. I know that he had like the 2nd most deflections. I know that he had like 3rd most loose balls grabbed. He led the finals in steals, I think, until last night. He was really good doing, and of course, rebounding wise, he almost averaged a double, 10 rebounds. So he was very good for the Cavs on everything besides scoring. And then 3rd, you gotta say Stephen Curry. He had a triple double in either game 2 or game 3. He had 10 assists last night, 34 points. Easily could have been MVP if Durant wasn't phenomenal. And I always question Curry's ability to be a playmaker. And this entire series, he pretty much put my foot in my mouth. The fact that, he wasn't as good offensively every game, but playmaking-wise, he was helping get, Durant involved. He was helping get Klay more involved. So Curry, he really was phenomenal this series, actually, doing all the things that I don't think he could do usually.
Yeah, you could
So
definitely
I'm probably
tell.
not going to – go ahead.
You could tell when he was out there, the offense just ran a lot smoother. It didn't get stagnant. Sometimes when he's on the bench, it just seemed like they kind of go to a little bit more iso ball. Maybe that was by scheme, but Curry just brought a good energy and a good pace. Other than like a bad game 4, he was great this series. And his game 4 wasn't even that bad.
He was. And last night, we know Curry's the three-point shooter, and I know the narrative, and I also follow the narrative, is the fact that – and last night, what made him so deadly is the fact that he was driving. He was driving with aggression, and he was finishing. And some of the layups he was making were tough layups. They weren't easy. And he was getting to the free throw line. We said earlier he had 8 or 9 free throw attempts again in the first quarter, which was huge for them to get momentum. My number 3, 2, I'm going to say LeBron James. He could have won MVP in my eyes, Finals MVP last night for how he's played. Even last night, he had 41 points, 13 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, a block, 63% from the field in the finals. But the best player in this series was Kevin Durant. The only series he had a lackluster game where he still scored 33 was Game 4. And, Game 3, he hit the dagger that won the Warriors the game. And last night, he wasn't a cupcake last night.
Yeah, no, honestly, this version of Kevin Durant is something different from what I've ever seen before. Obviously, he's always been a great player, but he's never been like this lethal and this like deadly. He's never had ice like this. The shots that he's hitting in this series, he's hitting like every big shot in the series. Anytime when it felt like the Cavs were going to get close, KD drops a 3. It was a Game 3. He had a huge part in that comeback to win late in that game. So, KD obviously has been the best player in the series. LeBron, obviously, number 2, like you said. First player, I think, to ever average a triple-double in the finals. You couldn't have really asked LeBron to do anything else. Like, he literally gassed himself out every single game, and he dropped 33, 12, 10 on 56% from the field, which is outrageous, especially with the amount of defensive attention he was getting. Yeah, then I'd put Steph at number 3. Steph, obviously, like you said, he impacted the game not only offensively, but his rebounding, his 2.2 steals a game. He had a few smart steals. I know we talked about that steal he had on LeBron James where he risked it all.
What a timing.
Yeah. And obviously, I think, Kevin Love did show some stuff to me too. I would probably have to go with Kyrie with just the amount of difficult shots that he hit in this series. Obviously I'm not a huge fan of the shots that he took, but he hit them. There's not much I can really say about that. Then surprisingly, I'd probably have to put like Klay at number 5 just for his defensive impact. And it's just, obviously I wanted him to be a little bit more aggressive at times when he had like Korver on him and stuff, but defensively he showed up a lot. And like you said, in Game 5, he had all the big shots. But who kind of disappointed this series and really let you down?
I'm going to say one for each team. For the Cavs, it's got to be Tristan Thompson. Actually, no. I'm going to say Kyle Korver. Because the whole point that they got Kyle Korver was for this guy to hit threes and was for them to be able to keep up with the firepower of the Warriors. And man, oh man, is Kyle Korver old. Because the fact of the matter is, there wasn't really a chance that he had a wide open look. He was he was locked up for the duration of every time he was on the court. They set a couple of screens to try and get him loose, and nothing got him loose. Even in Game 3 when they lost, I know LeBron had one possession where he drove down into the paint and he kicked out the Korver for a corner 3. A basketball play, but even that corner 3 that Korver probably should have made. I can't remember who was defending him, but they were right in his face.
Yeah, the Warriors did a great job closing out on him all series. They made his life extremely difficult. And I think even when he got open looks, he was so shook from the defense always being there, he missed.
Yeah, he was one of the guys who you could tell had very little confidence throughout the series.
And usually he's usually the most confident guy in the series. Like in most games, shooting wise, like he's always confident. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's one of the hell, how many times did we see him drop, 4 or 5 threes prior to this finals?
True.
A 20-point game against the Pacers, which, he's the Pacer killer all season. But for me, and then on the Warriors side, it's got to be Draymond. The foul trouble was a constant issue. You know, he should have been kicked out of Game 4, but we won't talk about that. And shooting wise, man, if Durant wasn't on his team or Durant wasn't efficient, Draymond would get so much heat for how ineffective he was offensively in this series. I mean, he just there was no confidence behind the shot, or so many wide open threes with air balls. It was incredible.
And it's crazy because he was having a great postseason. He's shooting over 40% from three, but all of a sudden he just lost it in this finals. Like you said, if they needed him to step up from the three-point line, I don't know if he was going to do it this series, maybe in a Game 6 or a Game 7, but he was definitely passing from the line. I think I'll agree with you on the Draymond point, especially after last year, you know, having such a huge series. I don't think he was bad, though. It's just the foul trouble really killed him and his lack of impact on the game. And then for the Cavs, I'm going to go with Tristan. Like you originally were thinking, Tristan, just because I think the rebounding battle, obviously he stepped up a little bit later in the series, but early on he was a complete no-show.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that with the Tristan pick, because like we said, he was horrendous for those first couple of games where he barely had more rebounds and points.
And then obviously the bench difference. I mean, just in general, the Warriors bench just killed the Cavs bench this series. Not only just on offense, but defensively coming in. They don't have any guys where you're like, oh my God, he's a terrible defender. Where you look at the Cavs and they bring in guys who would get killed defensively and then not hit their shots. Then you obviously had Darren Williams who didn't hit a shot for 3 games. So
I saw something this morning on ESPN, and they were talking about like bringing back Darren Williams, the reporter. And I was thinking, there's no way the Cavs are going to re-sign him. Like, I just can't see them re-signing him at all.
Like, the only way that I think they, like, re-sign him is if he's, like, just a bench player, and the fact that he doesn't play and he's just somebody they have as, like, a complete backup. Because you know that he just doesn't show up in the big moment. Obviously, he did okay in the postseason, but there's really no stress when you're playing the Cavs against the competition they had in the East. It's obviously, I know from being a Nets fan, he let me down a million times, so –
and you know what's funny? He wasn't bad this year on Dallas. He was having a subpar year. I mean, I think he was averaging 12 or 13 a game with 4 or 5 assists, which isn't bad for a 33-year-old Darren Williams on some shanky ankles and some bad knees. But yeah, definitely a disappointment.
It's kind of ridiculous when you look at where Chris Paul is right now and where Darren Williams is, and how they were so close back in the day, and now you would not get them confused at all.
And the sad thing is Darren Williams went to a finals before Chris Paul.
Yeah, it is very sad. Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with Paul in the future. But let's touch a little bit on this Warriors team. Obviously, I think they tied a record 16-1 in the postseason. Obviously one of the greatest postseasons we've ever seen. What do you think about this team?
It's the greatest team I've ever seen assembled. They are phenomenal. I mean, we knew coming into the season that they were going to be good. I know we all had question marks. Would chemistry be an issue? Klay said he wasn't going to sacrifice. There's only one basketball. How can all these guys keep up their numbers? And honestly, they made everyone who doubted them look like fools, especially Nick Wright. I mean, he's going to be getting so much heat today. But, they sacrificed. I mean, Curry deferred more than I thought Curry would defer early on. They all made Durant know that he is the guy. I think it's pretty clear that, Curry is obviously the engine of this team, but Durant is the star and face of this team to a degree because he's now the closer. You can rely on Durant now to go out there on an ISO possession and get you a big time bucket, which is what OKC did, but he didn't have anything to support him or to back him up shooting wise. And now Durant has one of the greatest shooters we're ever going to see in Curry. He has Klay. He has Draymond. They have Iggy on the bench, who, when healthy, as we saw last night, is still a top defender and a very good wing player. David West obviously was huge for them this season, and he had some big-time minutes last night. The Warriors are set up to win maybe 5 championships. They are in the driver's seat of the league. They're they're the greatest thing I've ever seen in basketball.
Yeah, from my perspective, I'm agreeing with you 100%. They're the greatest basketball team I've ever seen. Obviously, I wasn't a great basketball fan when I was a few years old to watch the Bulls or the Lakers or any teams like that. So I think, when it's all said and done, obviously the Warriors are going to have a couple more seasons with the squad together. But I think this easily could go down as one of the best teams ever. And all those teams saying that they would sweep them or beat them in 5 games are just lying to themselves. When you have a player like Kevin Durant on this team, a player like Steph Curry, 2 MVPs, 2 other All-Stars, a lot of former All-Stars. And I think, like you mentioned, Curry deferred a little bit more to KD than we all expected. But I think Curry also understood that he can impact the game in other ways too, like we saw in the series. KD can be that lethal scorer. Curry's going to run the offense a little bit more. He's going to have an impact rebounding. He's going to get a little bit more active defensively. And it kind of makes everybody a little bit better on the team when you can contribute in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, just the fact of the matter that Curry had, 13 or 10 rebounds in the one game and 5 of them were offensive rebounds. I mean, you don't see Curry normally battling down there in the, in the paint. But when you have guys around you that, can all score, you can move on the court to different positions. You can do a lot of other things, like you just said.
And you said it. You said you think 4 to 5 chips for this team.
I'm thinking, I mean, including this one, they're at least going to get 3 more, I think, depending on, health and if the core stays intact. Because the fact of the matter is, role players, I mean, when you have Durant, Curry, Draymond, and Klay, you're going to be able to get vets cheap. You're going to be able to get role players who want rings cheap. That's just how it goes. So, yeah, this team will, I think, at least get 4. What do you think?
I'm thinking like 3 or 4. I mean, I think they're almost a lock for 3 because I figure including this one, I'm almost locking them in to win next year. I'm giving my early prediction right now. I just don't see anybody getting a squad together that can beat them. Maybe the Cavs pull up some magic, but I still might favor them just because this team's going to have a year of playing together. Steph and KD are going to get another year together. Klay with them. Draymond's going to step up a little bit. I think I saw a video of today. Draymond's already in the gym training. So I think there's also the fact that they're young and they're all in their prime. It's going to just make them extremely difficult to stop. I think 4 is definitely likely, and then 5 is, possible, and maybe even more if nobody can get a team together. It'd be kind of crazy to see. How many do you think that they'll win in a row?
I'm going to say they at least do back-to-back. I think as well they win next year. I just don't think any team's going to be able to get together a squad and have enough chemistry to challenge this team. Because like you said, they just had a year together. They're going to have an offseason where they're probably all going to train together because these guys are a lot closer than Durant ever was, to Westbrook. And like you said, Draymond's already in the gym. I didn't know that. So he's already in the gym. That just shows that these guys are hungry, that they want to hold on to this trophy. So, I'm going to say they have to back-to-back.
Yeah, back-to-back seems like a lock for me, as long as there's no injury or anything like that. And like you said, I think the chemistry and this group just seems to like each other a lot, even though the whole team just seems to like each other a lot. And then Steve Kerr at the head, it just seems like a great group. And it'll be really interesting to see this dynasty. And I think you made a great point is in the offseason, they're going to be able to attract veterans on the cheap. Obviously, they're going to have to re-sign KD and Curry. That's pretty much a lock. The only 2 real actually, they probably have 3 question marks about guys re-signing that had a pretty big impact. And that's Andre Iguodala will be a free agent, Sean Livingston, and then Zaza also be a free agent. It'll be interesting to see if Andre stays or if he goes out for one last big contract.
Yeah, and for me, though, I got to be honest with you, I don't see Iggy Livingston leaving. I mean, even last night, Iggy was the first one on the scorer's table, grabbing his jersey and celebrating with the crowd. I think Iggy really loves his role. I know that when Kerr first said, you're going to come off the bench, we're going to start Harrison Barnes, those 3 years ago, that was a question mark. And I think Iggy has fallen in love with this 6-man role.
And he kind of probably realizes the opportunity about winning multiple championships. He obviously has the finals MVP. Walking away with a few chips wouldn't be bad. It'll be a big decision for him because we know teams will be interested in a player like him. And I think the one point you look at him is like, he might be a little bit older, but his mileage isn't that crazy because the last few seasons he's be coming off the bench. So I think he could have a big impact. It'll be up to him if he wants the chips or the money.
Yeah, and it's the same thing I think with Livingston. I think Livingston and Iggy are probably in the same boat.
Yeah, I think the only thing with Livingston is I think they might prioritize Iguodala a little bit, and Livingston would be the guy that might not get as big an offer, and they might lose him if they don't want to go over the luxury tax that much.
Yeah, I think Zaza, you can afford to lose Zaza. I don't think.
I think it's a lot easier to attract bigs, especially for this Warrior situation, because you figure the guy's not playing a ton of minutes and they're going to be playing with so many great players. They don't have to do much offensively other than the fact just set good picks. So I think they'll be able to just, find someone to kind of fill that role. Same thing with, West and McGee. I think McGee stays, probably signs a multi-year deal because I think he likes it there, and obviously he's had some success. The other guys, they could. The crazy thing is, if a few veterans are like, I just want to win a championship, they could possibly have a better bench next season.
Yeah, right. I mean, I know Vince. A lot of people have already been saying Vince Carter might go to the Warriors.
I would like that.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to see him playing against, alongside greats like Kevin Durant, seeing like the old and the new.
Yeah. And he played with Steph Curry's dad, so I'm sure and he's known Steph since he was a little kid, so that'd be kind of cool for him too.
Nope, and I didn't even know that, so that's awesome as well. All right, on the Raptors they played together, didn't they?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I always forget he was on the Raptors. Not Vince Carter, but Del Curry. And one thing I want to make one point. Everyone talks about the Warriors dynasty and when it started. Is this the start of the dynasty? It did start in 2015. When they went to the NBA Finals and won it, and then last year they had the greatest regular season of all time. Every era we see a player run the era, and we saw Jordan run the '90s, we saw Shaq's little era, then we saw Kobe's era, and then it was LeBron's era, and this is really set up to be from now until someone dethrones them, the Warriors era for the next 5 to maybe even 7 or 8 years, depending on how these guys,
Yeah, it'll definitely be crazy stuff. It's definitely the Warriors NBA right now, and it's up to the league to kind of come up with different guys that can, help them in this situation. It's tough to see. There's only a few teams that have even the possibility of getting enough talent to compete with the Warriors. It's going to have to be a slow, strong rebuild by one of these young teams and really put their cards right. Maybe Boston has a dynasty to kind of match them in a few seasons. Maybe the Timberwolves make a few great picks. Definitely interesting stuff to see and see what happens. And if they're healthy, I think health is probably the biggest concern for this team. They haven't had any terrible injuries. Durant missed a few months this year, but if they can stay healthy, it'll make all the difference.
Yeah, I mean, Curry had those injuries early on in his career, and now he's Mr. Invincible. I haven't seen him get hurt in 2+ years.
Yeah, so that'll be big. On the Cavs side, obviously, I think there's been a ton of talk. They don't have quite as many free agents. They have Kyle Korver, James Jones, Darren Williams, Derek Williams. So, I mean, they have a few guys, Dante Jones. So it's not like they're going to be able to add a ton because they're kind of locked up cap-wise. Do you think that they move Kevin Love or move one of these guys and try to get a bigger star in there?
I mean, there's like you said, there's only so much they can do. I mean, they just don't have a lot of roster flexibility. And I saw something today that they don't want to really change their roster. They really think that this team, that their team can beat that Warriors team minus one or two role players. Like, they really believe that their core of Love, Tristan, and LeBron is good enough to beat the Warriors, that they're just 1 or 2 role players away. It was by what's his name, Chris Haynes, I think, from ESPN, the one who said it. I don't agree. I think they need a solid 2 guard. I think to place. I think JR needs to go back to the bench. I think his age and playing starter minutes is kind of behind him, even though he had a phenomenal Game 5. I would like to see them try and get. I don't even know who they can get. Like we said, if they're going to trade anyone, it'd probably be Tristan, because as you just said about the Warriors, centers are one of those things that you can get at a decently easier rate. Either through the draft possibly, or who's willing to take the minimum and just split minutes with another veteran.
Yep.
But I don't see Kevin Love moving, because I don't think anyone truly Jimmy Butler and Paul George, both those guys are in rumors about going to the Cavs possibly. But do the Bulls or Pacers want Kevin Love? I know from a Pacers perspective, I would not want Kevin Love for Paul George because I would want a boatload of young players and draft picks.
And that's what the Cavs don't have.
Right. And for Chicago, they got to be in a similar situation. I mean, unless Wade opts in, I guess there's also a possibility, who knows, maybe Wade opts out, he heads to Cleveland. Maybe Melo, because Melo wants to get traded, maybe they trade Kevin Love to the Knicks for Melo. But even still, you know, getting Melo or getting Wade, that doesn't help the Cavs because you need to get faster.
More athletic.
You can't get older. Right. You can't get older and have more scoring because I saw a tweet last night saying if Melo was on the Cavs last night, this is going 6 or maybe 7. And I was like, why? What does Melo bring to the table besides poor defense, no athleticism, and a shaky shooting hand at his age now at 34 or 33? I'm not sure how he matches up against a Draymond in a 7-game series.
It's tough to say because it's like I think Melo would kind of change his game a little bit when he got to play with LeBron and obviously the actual chance at a championship, because you figure really except maybe one team in Denver, he hasn't really had a real shot at a championship. So, I mean, that could help. I wouldn't probably trade Love if I'm the Cavs. I mean, I'm trying to get Melo for like nothing because I know the Knicks have no leverage. And maybe if I'm a LeBron, I think I saw somebody tweet this, tell Melo that you're taking a trade to the Cavs and no other team, or you can see me in trading camp.
I mean, that's the one great thing about, Melo's situation, no trade clause, is the fact he's going to get traded. I think do you agree that he's going to get traded this offseason? I
mean, I think if the Knicks, it's tough to say, to be honest, because I think Melo kind of wants to get traded, but he's also not going to go to a shit team, and all the good teams aren't going to give up a ton of assets for Melo.
Right. I mean, I guess it really depends on what Phil Jackson really wants to do. If he's willing to let Melo leave for nothing, Phil, I guess, the Knicks perspective, not that we're trying to talk Knicks, but if he really wants to get rid of Melo, you're going to get that $26 million also back on your books. So it's not like you're losing him and not getting assets, because you're going to have $26 million a year to do something else in free agency, possibly, and add a shooter or add, sure who the hell they would add, but you at least have that money.
Yeah, one of these young guys, maybe a restricted free agent or something. No, I agree. I mean, I think Melo, if I'm Phil Jackson, I think Phil Jackson does move him just because he seems like he's really egotistical and he just wants to move Melo and be done with him, because that relationship has been terrible. So I think he does get moved, but I don't know how much they get for him. If they get anything at this point, they'll be lucky to get one first-round pick and a decent player. The way that
would it be possible, Nick, if they were to trade Melo nothing and the Cavs still keep everyone? And then
no.
Gilbert just pays an insane luxury tax, or is that out of the question?
No, they would need to match when you're over the cap that much and you do a trade, right, you have to match. So they would have to
trade Tristan or Love.
Yeah, maybe it'd be kind of funny. Maybe they trade Tristan and JR or something to match the contracts up, or they trade one of the other guys, or they sign somebody just to trade them or something along those lines.
Right.
The Cavs will have to get creative if they want to make any type of substantial move with the locks they have on their salary right now.
Yeah, I mean, the thought of Cleveland adding any superstar talent to me just seems unfathomable. I even saw a rumor trading Kyrie to the Clippers for Chris Paul. And I mean, what the hell does that do? I mean, yes, you get a playmaker, but Chris Paul's 32, LeBron's 32, going on 33. So you just gave up your future to try and win a ring in the next 2 to 3 years, and then doom your franchise for the next 4 to 7 years again.
Well, that's pretty much what the problem is for them right now, is because they trade all these first-round picks to pick up guys here and there, and now they have no picks. And if for some reason LeBron was going to leave, the only good thing they have is they have a lot of protection on their picks. But still, they don't really have much room to do. Do you think Boston could go into next season and make a few big moves and become better than Cleveland?
I think Boston is they're set up to be the next dynasty that we see made. I truly believe that. I'm not sure that they're going to be. I truly believe that the next team, the team that will dethrone the Warriors, to me, is going to be the Celtics. Cavs' time is almost over. we may see the Cavs in the finals again the next, year or two, but I don't see them beating the Warriors at their current state. And a team like the Celtics, they got the #1 overall pick on June 22nd. They have a boatload of cap space still to add a max player superstar. It's not crazy to think that they draft Markelle Fultz and they let Isaiah walk next year, or they trade Isaiah Thomas. I know Isaiah Thomas followed Gordon Hayward on Instagram today, so it looks like recruiting process already started for him. Yeah, Boston is going to be extremely good next make this if they make the right moves. Because Danny Ainge isn't thinking short term; he's thinking long term.
It's funny you say that, as I just saw an article today was talking about how Ainge wasn't going to do any real short-term moves. He's still looking long-term, and it just kind of tells you that they're getting ready for the long haul. It could be kind of interesting if we have two dynasties at the same time, if we see the Celtics and the Warriors battling it out for a few seasons in the finals. But that's for another episode. Kory, thank you. Thank you for hopping on this show. Thanks for all your great work on the halftime show. And as always, thanks everybody for listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Adios. It's been a pleasure, Nick.